Welcome to PAULSE, where positive actions uplift lives and spark excellence. I'm your host, Paul D. Taylor Sr., and this podcast is dedicated to inspiring growth, developing leaders, strengthening schools, empowering families, and helping people become the very best version of themselves. Each episode features conversations with educators, community leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs, entertainers, and everyday people who are making an extraordinary impact through ordinary acts of excellence. Whether you're a teacher, parent, student, administrator, business owner, or someone pursuing purpose, you're in the right place. So settle in, take notes, prepare to be challenged, encouraged, and inspired. This is PAULSE, because excellence isn't an accident. It's the result of positive actions taken every single day.
Yeah.
So lean in, listen, learn, lead. Let's get started.
Welcome to PAULSE, positive actions, uplifting lives, sparking excellence. Today we have a very, very special guest. We have our Assistant Superintendent of Innovation, Mr. Gary Porter. Mr. Porter, welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and be a part of the broadcast today. I'm very excited.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you. This is our first kind of summer episode, and what we wanted to do is kind of get you on because the Office of Innovation does a lot of work with the community.
Yes.
So we want to get out ahead of the school year. We actually are working to release this before school starts, so we can kind of get some dates out or get some announcements out as to like what you have coming down the pike for the upcoming school year. But before we get into that, I just wanted to, give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much. So my name is Gary Porter, and I do work as one of our assistant superintendents here in the district, overseeing the Office of Innovation, which encompasses our registration and school choice. We have centralized registration here in the district, and then, of course, the big piece of that also is our innovation, where we have a focus on family and community engagement. And with that, we support the district's work. Our district actually, as part of our strategic plan, one of the focuses of our strategic plan is making sure that we are strategic and intentional about engaging our families and our community partners. And so I say to people, it's really not new work because that's always been a focus, but we are really, really trying to drill down and make sure that we are following through on that work. Every school district has to submit a family engagement plan to the LDOE, Louisiana Department of Education, and we've been doing that, but now we're more intentional about making sure that we are, executing that plan that we submit. And conversely, all of our schools in the district have a family engagement plan that they have to submit to this LDOE. So we are supporting the work of the schools with their family engagement plans and also the district's family engagement plan.
Well, I applaud what the district is doing with having an office specifically dedicated for that purpose. I guess just to get the meter running a little bit. In the news lately, the governor has talked about districts potentially slashing their budgets 4 to 5% to make way for the teacher pay raises. I think on the latest is that there's a TRO to stop that from happening, and but for people who are listening or who might be watching who may not understand what all of that means, what would that mean for a school district to have to make those types of adjustments?
Well, I think, certainly your human resources, I think at any organization is the most vital part of an organization.
Yes.
And our teachers, here in Tangi and throughout the state, throughout the nation, to be honest, are very hardworking individuals. And, I can reflect on when I first started as a classroom teacher back in 1997. That's kind of let you know where I am now in my career. It's a lot more that is being required of teachers and staff now. I mean, I remember when I, became a teacher, my lesson plan was a one-page checkoff list. But now with the more detailed work, with more accountability in place now, we're asking our teachers to do a lot. So I do understand, the need to properly compensate our people and making sure that they are, the hard work that they do, that is being reflected in their pay. I think it's always a good idea to invest in your human capital. But I think, there will be a meeting of the minds to make sure that we are doing things the right way so that no school district is suffering in the process of trying to make sure that we are giving the teachers, the stipends or the raises that they deserve.
Right, yeah, and especially in a district like Tangi where we are making progress. We can see, for example, the Office of Innovation, that we have different projects that are coming up.
Yes.
There's going to be another project at Ponchatoula High School. They just broke ground at the Technology Center, the Career Center in Independence. We're doing well, good work.
Absolutely.
Great work, and I would prefer to see us be able to continue to do those things without being saddled with, politics, the politics of it.
Yes. And at the end of the day, any initiative that we do in Tangi and other school districts as well, the focus is on improving student outcomes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
The work around that, is, a lot of moving parts. But, we want to make sure that our students have all of the resources, the access, the opportunity, which is why we believe that we are on the cutting edge of making sure that we are offering opportunities for our students. You mentioned the Advanced College and Career Center. There was a groundbreaking a couple weeks ago because we're expanding the offerings that we will offer in that building in terms of industry-based certifications and making sure that our boys and girls have an opportunity not just to walk away from our school district with a diploma, but walk away with options.
Yes.
To make sure that, we're meeting the need of the whole child and that students have a concrete plan, that they're ready to go into four-year colleges and universities, community colleges, the military, the workforce. We are strategic in making sure that we're trying to do a good job of giving them the tools that they need to be successful post-high school.
Yeah, and one of the things, coming from, I'm originally from St. James Parish. I started my teaching career in St. James Parish. And one of the things that, I see similar in Tangi and St. James Parish is that thrive category. Making sure that students can thrive outside of the classroom. Once they graduate, that they're work ready. That they can, go out into the community, they can get a job, they can, pay their taxes, they can, pay their insurance and become homeowners. And, I often tell people how, I would train some kid in NCCER in the fall, and by the time they graduate, they make it 3 times what I was making to help them to get on that path.
Absolutely. And of course, that's what you like to see.
Yes.
And of course, our superintendent, likes to remind all of us that, the goal is for our children to live what we call the American dream.
That's it.
To be able to be self-sufficient, to, have a piece of land, own a home, have access to health insurance, being able to be self-sufficient, to support a family if that's what they choose to do. And we know that work starts right here in our school system. Yeah,
one thing I see as I'm, learning more about Tangipahoa Parish and traveling throughout, just getting the lay of the land, there's a lot of land for sale in Tangi.
Oh, no doubt.
A lot of real estate for sale in Tangi,
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, how we support families. Before you were at the Office of Innovation, you were the Director of Student Services.
Yes.
So that covers attendance, that covers registration. Tell us about what parents should, the basic things that parents should know about, their child attending school. Why is that important?
It is important because we were talking about the teaching staff earlier. Well, we know that we can have the best teachers and staffs in place in our schools, but if the boys and girls are not showing up, then they have no one to teach, and the students won't get what they need. So we have a focus as part of our strategic plan for the district. We have a focus area where we hone in, and for the last couple of years, we've identified 3 big rocks. Mm-hmm. And of course, the big rock number 1 is attendance. Mm-hmm. We know that when our students are in the building, when they're in school, when they're in front of that teacher that's there, the opportunity for them to experience success is greater than when they're not in front of those teachers. So attendance is vital. Yeah. Along with the attendance, our parents need to know that we are trying to create an environment in all of our school settings, in all of our office buildings, where we have a very welcoming culture and climate. Yeah. We want boys and girls to know, we want families to know that they are welcome on our campuses, and we want to create the environment where kids know that they belong, that they have a sense of belonging, that they have a voice in their educational process, that families have a voice. Making sure that we are tapping into their voice, it gives them ownership into the things that we're doing in the educational process. And it just goes a long way in strengthening that culture and climate, where we have an inviting culture and climate where parents have input, students have input. We give throughout the school year, we through surveys and other platforms, we try to get the voice of our families so that we can hear what they're saying, listen to what they're saying, look at the data that they're giving us, and then we take that data and we put initiatives in place to build the culture and climate based on what they're saying the needs are.
So let's drill down right there real quick. So if a parent gets an email from the district to do a survey, or if they get a call to do a survey, it's to their better interest to actually participate in that survey?
It's no doubt about it. We don't just give a survey just to be doing something. Mm-hmm. If we give a survey and we encourage families to do it, we're saying, hey, we value your voice. We want to hear what you have to say. And I can tell you that I'm on the team who looks at the results, who looks at the feedback. And as a result of that, we want them to know, hey, we heard you. We heard what you said. And as a result of the feedback, here's some things that we put in place based on the things that you shared with us in our survey.
So if they don't participate in the survey, you get what you get?
Well, we always want to encourage, because I think when they see that we are listening and that we are making efforts to put what they tell us into action, I kind of look at it and equate it to, voting, right?
Yes.
So
exactly.
When, voting is a democratic right, and when you go and use your voice in the polls, you're saying, hey, I want to have an opinion of who my elected officials are. I want to have an opinion on what goes on in my community. And the same thing when we get those surveys and we give those out, we're saying, hey, we value what you have to say. Mm-hmm. And we're not just sitting on that information, but we're putting it into practice.
So let me ask you about discipline. Mm-hmm. Discipline policy. That's another aspect that you directed under when you were over student services. So I think the one thing I would like to convey to parents is, number one, to learn the policy, right? Because I've seen it happen, not in just here, but everywhere that I've been. The policy is great until it pertains to my son or my daughter. Why is it necessary for us to have a policy, and it's necessary for us to enforce the policy as it is written?
That's a great question, and here's the way I will answer that, and I'll kind of go from a foundational place. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, in all of our schools, our number one goal, believe it or not, that even supersedes the academic component, is safety. Mm-hmm. We're clear that, when parents send us their most precious commodity, their boys and girls, they want to know first and foremost that they're going to be in an environment where they're safe. They want them to come back home physically intact, the same way they were when they sent them to us, and smarter because they've been in learning environment, learning all day. So we're clear that under the umbrella of our culture and climate, we have to prioritize safety. And so shifting to the discipline piece, with safety, you have to have policies and procedures in place that will not only keep our students safe, but also our faculty and staff.
Yes.
And when we have good safety measures in place, it makes the learning environment more conducive and inviting for everybody. So, I mean, in the land, we're no different in the school system than the laws of the land. As citizens in our towns and our communities, we have rules to follow.
Yeah.
We can't escape that. And I think in order to have order, in order to be functional, in order to make sure that we are, ensuring that everybody's safe, we have to have rules in place. And unfortunately, we do have students sometimes that, that may not follow the rules. And sometimes there are consequences that come with that. But the goal is not to be so much punitive as restorative and rehabilitative. And as a result of that, a few years ago, we made a shift in our district, and we went from a more punitive model of discipline to a more restorative model where we are putting things in place to be more proactive than reactive. In other words, for example, we introduced a few years ago a Tier 1 curriculum called Character Strong that focuses in on the social-emotional learning of our students. Because sometimes students may come to us and they may lack some skills. For example, if I struggle with anger management or conflict resolution, well, if I don't have those tools in my tool belt, I may be somebody who gets set off easily, agitated easily, and then sometimes that can trigger behavior such as fighting. So our goal is to kind of front load our students with the educational component of how do you handle conflict? What are the tools that I can give you to help you be able to manage your anger a little bit better so you're not as volatile as you may be? And I feel like when we center our kids and educate them, then we are clear, because our data does show that we have seen positive results as a result of the curriculum that's put in place to help minimize those types of behaviors on campuses.
I like the proactive approach with Character Strong. I can see how even having those, for example, at Ponchatoula High School, we have Pastor Jackson, who's a behavior specialist, and Miss Osa Williams, who also is a behavior specialist there, and having those positive role models in the building that's actually there who are versed in social emotional learning. I think it helps, especially when you're trying to be a trauma-informed educator. Because like you talked about, the kids that flash out, they use the term flash out. They're volatile because of most of the time that the trauma that they're suffering at home, and learning how to process those emotions and learning how to process those things. They need assistance with that. They may not be in counseling or therapy to deal with it, but there are behavioral and character proactive measures, like you said, Tier 1, which means everybody gets access to it. Measures to help them to navigate those emotions.
Absolutely, and to piggyback, we do have students that come to us who have had various experiences, sometimes traumatic, and our goal is to meet the need. Typically, if a student shows up and they're exhibiting certain behaviors, there's typically a root cause to that behavior. And so our role as educators and counselors and support staff in the schools is to get to the root cause. Right? So that when we identify the root cause, then we can put the supports in place that can help the boys and girls have a better level of success. And one initiative that we have in our schools is the process that we call the SAC process. Formerly known as SBLC, School Building Level Committee, but our SAC process is our student assistance team. And in essence, it is a problem-solving team within every school that has a variety of staff on that team. It could have an administrator, teacher, counselor, attendance specialist who make up that team, and we problem solve for students. In other words, it used to be a process that was focused more so on students who were struggling with academic deficits, but now we have kind of revamped it to include students who may be struggling with behavioral issues as well, attendance. Those red flag indicators that say to us, hey, let's come to the table. Let's get the parent to the table, and let's problem solve. You know, if we have a student with attendance issues, we want to get to the root cause and find out how we can help families to make sure that their boys and girls are in attendance and in attendance on time. So all of those things that we're putting in place are to the benefit of our children, and we are looking to really be proactive rather than reactive. You know, now I will say this, you know, and our board has taken a stance. You mentioned behaviors such as fighting and things of that nature. You know, they have taken a stance to put, you know, stiffer consequences in place because it will hopefully discourage those behaviors. But at the same time, we are clear that we want to bring the educational component and giving the kids the tools in their tool belt to be more successful.
Well, as they say on the street, tangent don't play.
There you go.
Tangent don't play. But I will say, you know, that is, I believe that the measures that have been put in place are working.
Yes.
I think that, you know, for example, at Ponchatoula High School, the referral rates over the past couple of years have gone down significantly. And I believe that it's because of the, you know, the stiffer penalties, but also the measures as far as the Tier 1 curriculum of Character Strong, because during our advisories, the students, they go through the Character Strong curriculum. They go over IXL. They go through their My Lexia, their other interventions that we put in place during that period every day. And so I do see where these things are actually benefiting us, where the numbers, the data actually is supporting that. That's happening.
Absolutely. And even though, you know, we've been talking about the behavioral piece, but also the academic side of the house, what do we know? We know that even at the early elementary age, when students are struggling with literacy, when they're struggling readers, then sometimes their struggle can translate into behavior problems. Because if I can't read and I'm not an on-level reader, then I don't want my peers to know that. And sometimes that can trigger behaviors that can be disruptive in the classroom. So we're clear that we have to make sure that we have a strong literacy push, and we do, to make sure that we're making that our kids are having access to the science of reading, making sure that they are on-level readers by 3rd grade, because then they have a strong foundation that can be built on, and you will see less behaviors, because if I'm successful, I can read, I can function in class, then I have more of a focus on my academics rather than acting out. So we're clear that every area, every department works together to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the whole child.
So instead of asking, if I'm a parent, instead of asking, you know, what did that teacher do, or what she said, or should I be asking, can you read? Maybe I should check my child to see if they're reading on level.
Absolutely. And, you know, so and here's why I would really, you know, drill down with the work that we're doing in innovation. Of course, families, we have a family toolkit that parents can access via our website, where we have a lot of resources and tools in place for families to access the things that we have in place to support not only their students but also them as parents. And the work of the Office of Innovation, we are trying to, you know, do some of the heavy lifting with the schools to provide professional development opportunities for our families.
Talk to me about that. Talk about it.
So we're clear that we have new initiatives in education that can sometimes be challenging, because sometimes families want to help students. We may have students being raised by grandparents and great-grandparents and people who may not be as tech savvy. So we're looking to provide professional development, just like we do for our faculty and staff, for families. We want to be able to educate our families around what are our resources. How can I help my kid? What can I do as a parent to be engaged and involved in my kid's education? What does that look like? We want to define what parental involvement looks like. It could be as simple as having a conversation with your kid every day. It could be as simple as communicating. We have an excellent communication tool that a lot of our elementary and middle schools use called Class Dojo. And it is an opportunity for teachers to communicate with families, to put them in the know, to let them know that they can access, their kids' grades, upcoming assignments through our J Campus portal for parents. We in the Office of Innovation have provided opportunities for families where we have met with community partners. We've held training sessions in some of our churches. We want to meet the parents where they are. We have been blessed and fortunate to provide a place. We have a family engagement center that we renovated this year, a building in the district, and we provide professional development opportunities for families. And one of the things that we've done in the Office of Innovation, we did what we call a listening tour this year.
Okay.
And one of the things that we did, we went into the schools, we met with principals and their admin teams, and we said, hey, what does family engagement look like in your school? And we asked specific questions to principals and their teams, like, what are some things that you identify as a principal or an administrator in your building? What professional development opportunities do you think we can support you guys with to help your families? They gave us excellent feedback.
Okay.
So this year, we're going to be providing those opportunities for families, bring them in, educate them, make them aware of the resources. So often we hear families who still are not aware of all of the resources that we do offer in this district.
Right.
We have families who still don't know about our Advanced College and Career Center, where their
they don't know what
it
is.
And they don't know that they have opportunities where their kids can get dual enrollment credit, college credit, at no cost to them.
Explain real briefly what dual enrollment means.
Yeah, so dual enrollment is an opportunity for a student to engage in college level classes, which, we have instructors that, and it can look different. We have instructors who work with our universities, for example, Southeastern, North Shore, and they teach college level credits in the buildings that kids would have to pay for once they get to college. But, the district covers the costs for families, for students to participate in those classes. And we can have students that will leave us as seniors who may leave headed to college with 12 hours of college credit.
That's a semester.
That is a semester.
That's a semester worth of. When my younger son and my daughter, when they both went to college, they started college as sophomores because they had already taken a number of classes, college courses, while they were in high school. And I think that a lot of parents need to understand that that's an opportunity, because it costs about $13 to $40, $100, depending on what school they're going to. It could be up to $100,000 to send a kid to school, to college, and those classes, they are very expensive. They can be up to $1,200 just for one class for 3 hours of credit.
And in addition to those dual enrollment classes, we do have the industry-based certifications, the job skill training that our kids can get in our schools at the Advanced College and Career Center. They are invaluable, and they are opportunities for our kids to be employable right now. And we want to make sure that all of our families know, our goal in innovation is to make sure that every family knows what those resources are and how to access them. Because we don't want anybody to miss out on any opportunity for a technicality of I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes everybody getting on board with that. One of the initiatives that we did this past year, we reached out, we felt like we needed to hear, I mentioned the listening tour earlier, and we targeted a couple groups that we feel like were important to get their voice. So one of the first groups that we started with was our clergy.
Mm-hmm.
And because we see them as community partners. And we started back in October, we had a clergy breakfast where we invited clergy throughout Tangipahoa Parish to come in, sit with us. Our superintendent did an amazing job of giving the state of our district and talking about the things that we do, talking about the big rocks. Here are the things that we're focusing on as a district. And then we said, and how can you help us? Give us your voice. How can you help support this work that we're doing? Mm-hmm. And they gave us an amazing list of ideas. Some churches were already on board with things that they're doing, tutorial programs that they offer in their churches, other things that they came up with and shared with us. And so we extended that. Mm-hmm. And we said, okay, it may be a good idea for them to come in and see the things in our schools that are happening, that are positive and that are in place to help students and families. So we embarked on a year-long journey of what we call the clergy tours. Mm-hmm. And clergy had an opportunity to come into our schools. We loaded them on a bus and they came in and they were able to see firsthand the wonderful courses, the wonderful extracurricular, the things that we're doing, seeing the boys and girls in action. Seeing the students being able to lead those tours when they came to their schools mm-hmm. and articulate the things that are happening in their buildings that are wonderful. It was an amazing experience. And so we feel like we have a stronger partnership because what happens is that the same students that we're seeing in our classrooms in our schools, mm-hmm. they're also students that are in these congregations mm-hmm. in our district. So we feel like that partnership has to be strengthened.
So is that something that your office is going to do annually or by semester? Like, or is there going to be more opportunities for the clergy to engage and assist and find ways that they can assist?
Absolutely, and not just the clergy, but our focus is we've been doing some planning this summer. It may look a little different this year, this coming school year, because we're not only going to just invite and engage the clergy, but we also targeted another group this past year. We targeted the realtors in our area, the ones who are selling homes in this district, mm-hmm. because we wanted them to be informed as they're selling homes to families about the school system, about the things that we're offering.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I'm moving to Tangi or considering moving to Tangi, and and I'm a parent with school-age children, that's a big decision for me. Like, I want to know where my kid is going to be going to school.
Right.
What do they offer at that school? So we feel like we need to educate our realtors. So I'm saying that to say that not only are we targeting our clergy, our realtors, our community servants, our mayors, our council members. So we're looking to expand the tours and invite more people to come get on the bus, mm-hmm. to not just call it the clergy tour, but the community tours where they can come in, because we're trying to strengthen those partnerships.
Yes.
We feel like the more people who are singing our message and singing the same song, when I go to church, when I go to the council meetings, everybody is speaking a common language and talking about the things that are going on in the school system, because it is a reciprocal, partnership. Mm-hmm. For example, a lot of our churches, as a result of the clergy tours, they're having events in their churches this summer, mm-hmm. whether it's Vacation Bible School, whether it's different things going on to engage students and families, and they have invited our office to come out and be a part of that. Wow. So it's a win-win, for the partnership.
Right, and I think that's is an underutilized partnership throughout the state. Mm-hmm. And mainly people they tiptoe around it because of the separation of church and state, obviously. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, those churches are still in the community that we all serve, and we are all serving the same community. The same kids that show up in your school on Monday just came from church, or hopefully went to church somewhere on Sunday.
And listen, and on the tours, it was not about preachers coming in praying and things like that, because that did not happen.
Right.
It was about partners coming in to see the great things that are going on in our schools.
What's going on in the schools.
And communicating that to other people in the community.
Right. I think that's a great message and opportunity, and that is good news for them to bring back to the community. Is what's happening in the school system.
Absolutely, and we talk about making sure families are aware. So our office does a clergy newsletter that we send twice a month to our clergy. And the only thing we ask them to do is to share it when they have their announcements read at their churches. And we put all the things that are going on in the district, put those in the clergy newsletter so they can announce those. Because the more you hear something, you're like, okay, you kind of take note of it.
So, Mr. Porter, where can a parent go to find out your calendar of what's happening as far as the family PDs, professional development for parents, whatever school bag giveaways, or where can they go to find that information?
That is an excellent question, and I will say this. One of the things that's so important for families to make sure that they do is to keep updated contact information, updated phone numbers, updated email addresses, because we push out so much of our information through our electronic platforms, our social media platforms. We have our district website, as I mentioned earlier.
Let me add something to that. Make sure that you have not blocked the school's number or any of the TPSS numbers. Unblock them so that you can get those phone calls and get those
text
prompts,
messages.
Those text messages.
We push out in so many ways, and so it's important to make sure your information is updated. I want to make sure I added that. But again, I mentioned visiting our www.tangischools.org, and we have a place, the Family Toolkit.
Okay.
It is a very invaluable resource for families, because anything that you need to know, upcoming events, how to access the J Campus student portal, whatever you need as a family, as a parent in this district, you can access it on the Family Toolkit link on the district's homepage. And and making sure, because we have a family newsletter that we send out, and it is amazing. The district has put measures in place. This past year, the board approved for us to have a communications director.
Okay.
Ms. Dina Spears was hired as our communications director, and she and her team do an amazing job with making sure that the communication is out there.
Okay.
We like to tell our own story in Tangi. We like to have control of the narrative. We have designees in all of our schools. Every school has a social media designee who makes sure that they're promoting all of the wonderful things that are going on, whether that's dates for open houses, back to school nights, supply lists. All of that information is ready right now. If you visit, I would encourage families, if you do social media, follow your school's social media page, follow the district social media page, but make sure you're accessing that Family Toolkit. Make sure your information is updated with respect to having good email addresses, because we send out mass notifications, mass text messages, emails that give family members all of the information that's available to keep you updated and ahead of the game.
Listen, whatever is understood need no further explanation. You have no reason to not know how to get this information. Go to TPSS, get on that Office of Innovation site, and you can get links to wherever you need to go, whatever events are coming up. Is there anything that you're working on, like to kick off the school year?
Absolutely. We are working on, and we're partnering with our local, our Crime Stoppers, the 21st Judicial, because we have back to school bashes.
Okay.
We have 3 back to school bashes that will be held starting on next month. There will be one on the north end of the parish.
Next month, you mean July?
In July.
Okay.
Yes. Those dates are listed. I can't recall them off the top of my head, but if you visit our website,
Back to
you
school
can find
bash is
those.
starting in July.
That's right. So there's one on the north end of the district where you don't want to miss that, because there will be department representation from all of the departments in the school district. There's an opportunity certainly for school supplies, back to school supplies, an opportunity. Our registration team will be there, different teams, our transportation, our child nutrition, all of the areas are going to be represented. So there's one in the north end of the parish, one in the center part of the parish, which we call our mid parish, and then one on the south end. Don't miss those back to school bashes, because it's an opportunity to get ahead of the game, get free school supplies, and just get information on all of the things that are coming up for the upcoming school year.
Hey, man. Mr. Porter, I really appreciate your time, man. Like, I really thank you for breaking down everything that you broke down for us today, because it was a lot. You have it's called innovation for a reason.
It really is, and when we talk about innovation, it's not just technology.
No,
but it is out of the box thinking. It is being willing to be risk takers and try new things to meet the needs of our families and our students and our staff members. Because if the need is not met, then we're not doing our job.
Yes, sir. Hey, positive actions, uplifting lives, sparking excellence. Mr. Gary Porter, TPSS, Assistant Superintendent of Innovation. Thank you today, sir, for what you've done today and giving us your time.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for sitting with us today on the PAULSE Podcast, where positive actions uplift lives and spark excellence. We hope today's conversation encouraged you, challenged you, and gave you something you can apply to your own life. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us grow by sharing it with your family, friends, co-workers, and anyone who believes in making a positive difference. Be sure to follow PAULSE on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and RSS, and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcast so you'll never miss a new episode. Remember, every great change begins with one positive action. Until next time, keep uplifting lives, keep pursuing excellence, and keep making a difference. I'm Paul D. Taylor Sr., and this has been the PAULSE Podcast. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Listen, learn, lead. Peace.